Hey, this is Katy Jeter with the Public Affairs Program here on KNDY. This week I talked with Gary Otte, who is making a movie called Saving 22.
I made a feature length documentary. It's called Saving 22, and I'm a veteran. And my transition into society was kind of rough, and I wasn't even deployed. And I had an opportunity to do so, and found out that it ended up actually being, the project that helped me wake up and open my eyes and start taking accountability for things that I didn't know that I need, for things I didn't know I needed to take accountability of. And it's I was never suicidal, but I mean we always get to a point where, or we all get to a point where we just want the pain and the annoyance to end, and whatever that end is, that's the end. But some people, some veterans, a lot of veterans, 22 a day actually, are taking their lives. And so the purpose of the movie is to really raise awareness, to let people know of what we veterans go through once we leave the service and then enter into society.
Most veterans are having a silent war.
The silent war is, well, for a lot of veterans, especially the ones that were deployed and lost somebody, they are racked with the guilt of living. I got a buddy of mine that I interviewed. He lost a couple or so team leads, and his thought process was, well, like why are they taken, and why am I still here? What? And that's actually a common answer to the questions that I would ask. It's like another buddy, he stepped on a landmine, lost a leg, and he's still, part of the leg. He's still functioning. In fact, in the movie, he's riding a motorcycle, and he stepped on a landmine. When he stepped on a landmine, it threw him up into the air. He was wearing his flak jacket, and he landed on another, and it prevented him from landing full weight onto another. When he landed on the other, it prevented his full weight from exploding and really taking him out. It would have taken him out, and so his jacket, worked, and it prevented him from dying. So when he come back home, the thing that he had, even though he was missing a leg, he was like, man, why am I still alive? And, other people who step on landmines, vehicles, I mean, these people are, gone. So the war within, there are a lot of factors. And the thing that was driving me nuts is the lack of adventure, the lack of purpose. And that's another big, is the lack of purpose. When we get out, our job is no longer there. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have that connection. We don't have, we haven't learned what our purpose is. And it's very hard to overcome those internal thoughts of, man, if I would have stayed in, I could have been doing this. I could have retired. I could have been earning my pension. I could have, whatever, just a number of factors. But typically, to answer your question, it boils down to a lot of them is because somebody lost somebody and they're wondering why they're alive and their buddy isn't. And would they have done better in their life had they been here instead of that, the person I was talking to. So if they would have been switched out, would they have done better, done more than what that individual is doing? So there's a lot of factors that goes into the battle within.
Saving 22 is trying to help the public know what veterans are going through.
What I want the audience to be are loved ones of a veteran. I want mental health professionals. I want service providers, including VA, and equine therapy or specific therapy, like even dogs or art therapy, art therapists, that kind of a thing, and business leaders, because when you give a veteran a chance and when they get to a point where they can, function or they are functioning and they are now thinking about their new career, that's how business, local business leaders, politicians, all these different community leaders coming together. I want ultimately them coming together, watching the movie, understanding, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm never going to really tell you, it's very difficult for me to explain, what I'm going through, or let alone any veteran. But with the movie, it's the mouthpiece. It lets people understand the different things that we're facing. The the events, the Saving 22 events, movie plus networking event, because I'm there's a time where people can network. I want that to be where people are coming together, creating networks, sharing their resources. So that way, when they find somebody that's going through some mess and some, they're going through some dark days, I want others to be able to, like, hey, you know what, I see what I understand better of what you're going through, and so I want them to be able to, those that catch, I want them to, to reach out, to, start making phone calls, like, hey, we got somebody that's, going through some stuff. Let's check on them. Let's make sure they're okay. Let's making sure they're eating, because, diet is a strange thing. You wouldn't think it, but if you're not doing great mentally, it's probably because the person isn't eating and or sleeping. And typically, a lot of times, eating it plays a big role.
I would like to thank Gary Ott for being my guest on this weekend's Public Affairs. If you would like to listen again, you can always go to kndyradio.com. Thank you for listening. This has been Katy Jeter with the Public Affairs Program here on KNDY.